Joining me is Mr. Tarun Khanna, who's professor at the Harvard Business School, also first director at Lakshmi, Mittal and Family South Asia Institute. Thank you very much, Mr. Khanna, for joining us. You're here in New Delhi and at the India conference on a climate resilience future. Tell me, what is the biggest challenge for our country to achieve a climate sustainable future?
I think one of the biggest challenges is to, as Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji said, that we have to both deal with the realities of providing energy as we are rapidly developing, hopefully even going from 6.5% growth to much faster, but that requires energy. We know that the energy intensity of economic growth, in other words, how much GDP we add per unit of energy consumed, has been declining quite rapidly, which is a sign of enormous progress. We have to do much better on that front, so that's a big challenge. But, I think we in India also want to be global citizens, and it's not appropriate for us to say that we should be developing regardless with only fossil fuels, because if we want to be global citizens and a global or at least a regional power, then we have to do this responsibly. That is why the ministry has cooperated with my colleagues at Harvard. And we come here in all humility to say that we don't have the answers, but we want to work with our colleagues in India, our scientists, social scientists, policymakers, to find ways to address these challenges.
Right. Mr. Khanna, you did talk about India's initiative and policy making a bit. I'd like to address that. The government has been talking about deregulation, in cutting down the compliance in order to achieve the 6.5 growth or even higher GDP growth. When it comes to India's climate agenda, do you see the need of stronger policies from the central and state governments?
So I think policy making is always a bit of an art and some science, right? There are probably some areas where we have excess regulations, and as social changes occur and technological changes occur, places that we might have been tight from a policy standpoint in the past, it may be appropriate to loosen the strings now. Maybe things that were could be less safe in the past are now more safe because of the ways that we know how to do things better. On the other hand, there might be other areas where policy has to be tightened. An example that is true not just for India but the rest of the world is the carbon credentialing space. Right? The carbon credits market is vibrant in some pockets, in Europe, for instance, some parts of Europe, but is quite moribund in many other places. And the whole idea of carbon credits, as you know, is to say that if I don't know how to change my production process as an entrepreneur in the short run, and I am obliged to keep producing greenhouse gas emissions, I should be allowed to buy carbon credits from someone who is engaged in offsetting activity. But that offsetting activity has to be something that can be credentialed so that the market can be based on a true asset exchange. And so that's an area where regulation has to be more carefully thought through. But the straightforward answer to your question, not an easy answer, but a straightforward answer is that in some places we need tightening, in some places we need loosening. Yeah.
Some places tightening and some places loosening. On a global scale, we have seen that a couple of countries have had a lopsided view when it comes to climate commitments. The US, in fact, with its new presidency, has its focus currently on other things and not much on commitments under the Paris Agenda or the UN. Does this bother you or concern you? Because this could have a direct impact on a lot of developing countries who are trying to reshape their strategies.
Well, I think we're at a complicated geopolitical moment. And I'm certainly not an expert in policy in the US on what's going to happen in any of those areas. I don't really have any sensible thing to say other than to echo something that my friend and colleague Suman Berry, Vice Chairman of Niti Aayog, just said on the stage, which is in this period of enormous positive technological ferment, as well as unnerving geopolitical uncertainty, I think the task of the policy planner or the policy enthusiast, as well as the entrepreneur, is to be incredibly nimble and to build in that flexibility so that we can deal with these contingencies and to realize that excessively centralized, to go back to one of your earlier questions, excessively centralized policy may not serve us as well as it has in the past, and that we need some decentralization so as to permit local empowerment, local experimentation to deal with turmoil that comes from technology or geopolitics.
Yeah, and very important when it comes to a country like India because of its democratic nature and the federal and state cooperation. But thank you very much, Mr. Khanna. Wishing you luck for the
Thank
discussions
you,
in the next days.
Karishma. It's nice to be with you, and thank you.